What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Matthew Moreno and special guest David Vassegh, here to repeat his performance from the NLDS. David, we had you on the first time. You nailed it. You compared the Padres very accurately to the Sacramento Kings, and so we needed to have you back on.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like Manny Machado played a great Chris Webber. I felt like Profar was a great Doug Christie, and Fernando Tatis Jr. was a great Mike Bibby. And they lived up to all of that. And how long is that team going to be able to stay together remains to be seen, just like the Sacramento Kings. And we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, it was a great series, and incredible for the Dodgers to hold them scoreless for the last 24 innings.
Yeah, Dave, you mentioned that in the Dodgers' performance in that, and obviously the pitching staff deserves a ton of credit, and the coaches and Dave Roberts. One thing I want to ask you is, we've heard from not just Dave but players as well that this team is different than last year in terms of falling behind in the NLDS and not mounting a comeback, and even 2022. Why do you think that that's the case? Is it just as simple as having Shohei Ohtani and Teoscar Hernandez, and not just from a talent standpoint, but maybe like the emotion that they sort of play with out on the field, or is there another reason for it?
Yeah, I feel like those two guys not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk. And that's a big difference from just saying we're fighters and we're not going to give up, compared to actually having your actions say that to not only 50,000 in the stands, but more importantly, the guys in the dugout. And I really thought also, I was told when I asked some Dodger people, like, where did you feel like the series turned? They actually pointed to game 3, which the Dodgers lost, right? It was when Walker Buehler came into the dugout after that 6-run second inning and turned over that cooler of whatever was in there, right? And he got really upset, and he let it be known that he wasn't happy with himself, and he wasn't happy with the way that inning went by all of them. And also, they told me the Teoscar Hernandez grand slam in that very same game, they feel changed that series and really sparked the Dodgers to have some edge. I've said all season long, I felt like the Dodgers were too nice of a team. Well, in this series, they actually figured out that you can't be nice and beat those guys, because that's just not going to get it done. And that's where they looked at as far as the Dodgers really getting an edge. And then obviously, we don't talk enough about the Dodgers bullpen. No reliever is going to be perfect, and whenever they give up a run, everybody freaks out. But that group of relievers down there have really shouldered a lot more of the innings than what any other bullpen really should have to on a 98-win team. And that's the one thing everybody told me about that bullpen, even before game 4, that they're just a bunch of dogs, and they proved that.
Well, I joke, David. It's this series sets up perfectly from a pitching perspective, because if it gets to a game 7, the bullpen game will be right there for game 7, which is the Dodgers' best starter, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I hope it doesn't get to 7 games.
You and me both.
On Dodger Talk, I predicted the Dodgers would win in 5 games over the Mets. I feel like the magic is going to end against a really good Dodger team that can hit their pitching. But, I had a couple of managers that I reached out to that saw the Mets a lot, and they said what makes them really good is that they have a lot of veteran at-bats, veteran-type at-bats, and, of course, Lindor being the X factor. So this may not be as easy of a series as we all think, but I think it goes back to everything that we said before the playoffs started. The Dodgers are going to have to score at least 5 or 6 runs to be able to win games, and it proved out to be true with the exception of game 5.
Well, let me ask you this. This is a question I asked Matt on a live show we did last night. My concern for the Dodgers is if things go south in the NLCS and we kind of look backwards after and say, well, what happened, would be that, is it possible there's this emotional high, this emotional sort of trauma that it takes to get through a team like the Padres, to play a huge game 5 with all the anxiety, all the emotion, to overcome that, and then the potential for there to be a letdown? I compared it to Alex Vesia coming out of a game, the adrenaline rush, screaming, jumping off the mound, and then having to sit for 15 minutes and come back out and pitch the next inning. Is there any concern in your mind that this team could have a little bit of an emotional letdown because of what it took to get past the Padres?
That's a concern. That's a great point, Jeff, because I felt like that's what happened after they beat the Giants in 21 in that 5-game series. But that was a little bit different. They were really fighting and putting all their energy into beating the Giants to win the division, going down to the final day of the regular season. That is a possibility, obviously, but it feels like these guys want more. And the new guys, the newcomers, again, Teoscar Hernandez, Shohei Ohtani, I don't believe they're going to allow that to happen. And they've been watching the playoffs. I mean, they had all those watch parties, right? So they're very familiar with what's going on with the Mets and how a lot of things have gone the Mets' way, and you can't take them lightly. So I don't think that's going to be the case. And look, I think it's up to the crowd today at Dodger Stadium. If they bring the energy, those guys will feed off the adrenaline. Tomorrow, horrible game time for a playoff game, an NLCS game, 1:00 in LA on a Monday. I think today is the day Dodger fans really have to bring the energy and lift this team up emotionally. And I think they'll lift each other up emotionally as well. And Jack Flaherty, an emotional pitcher. Dave Roberts has said this ever since he took over. The momentum of the next game starts with the starting pitcher, and that starts with Jack Flaherty today.
David, sort of with all of that, do you have one kind of main concern for the Dodgers or a big key for this series? Obviously, injuries continue to be an issue for this team. Alex Vesia, I know as we're recording this, the roster isn't official yet, but Dave Roberts did say it's highly unlikely Vesia is included. Are you worried about injuries? Freddie Freeman's still banged up, Miguel Rojas, or is there another kind of X factor for this series?
No, I feel like losing Alex Vesia is huge. He's been so good against lefties and righties. He's a big part of the way they deploy their relievers. So that's I know, the common fan out there might think, oh yeah, just another lefty reliever. No, he is significant. He's a significant loss. So I'm not sure how they're going to overcome that. I'm not sure how they talk about lanes, but it's really groupings of hitters, what changes there. But that's a huge loss. Alex Vesia has been so good all year long. I'm not sure how they replace it, but they always seem to find a way. But don't discount that. Don't discount the fact that Joe Kelly and Brusdar Graterol were not able to have their shoulders bounce back to pitch in this series. So they're a little bit thin in the bullpen with losing Vesia for sure.
Let me ask you something on the offensive side. You're a guy that's super connected to this team. You're around them a lot. I want to ask about Mookie Betts. I remember we did our post-game show after game 2, and all of the talk was 0 for 22. This guy can't do it, yada, yada, yada. And on one hand, I was the guy standing up, I felt like with one sword and 3,000 people coming at me saying, hey, this guy, A, it's 22 at bats. B, he's been great in the postseason before. And by the way, he was like inches away from home runs in both game 1 and game 2. What clicked? Because all of a sudden he hits a home run in game 3, a home run in game 4, a big hit as well. What changed? And is this something you're expecting to see moving forward?
Well, number one, 0 for 22 is not a small sample size. I mean, that can get into your head. And him being like just over a 200 hitter in his postseason career, going back to the Red Sox days, I'm sure that's something that was in his head as well. And more importantly, the recent history of not delivering in the past 2 playoff series and hearing about it, going back to spring training. The first thing he said to me is, I'm here to redeem myself for the last 2 years. And all throughout the season, he talked about it. Like, it doesn't mean anything unless you do it when it counts. And I feel like he put way too much pressure on himself going into the first 2 games of the series. And I think he just took a step back, and he said his friends, his teammates, Big Papi, David Ortiz, really pumped him up to get his confidence back. He's human too. Yeah. His confidence was low. He was in his own head. And the way it was described to me, the reason why he was taking all those swings was because of anxiety, getting rid of that anxiety by taking swings. And there's a lot of worse ways to do that. So, Mookie's a great guy. He's humble in his everyday life, and him being that humble of a person sometimes works against him in baseball because sometimes, and players and teammates have told me this, he has to be reminded how good he is. And luckily for the Dodgers, it clicked for him before before this series got out of hand.
Yeah. A question I asked you heading into the NLDS, I'll ask you again. Give me an X factor that you think is going to come up big for the Dodgers in this series.
Well, that's a great question. In this series, a 7-game series, I really thought that going into this series, the Dodgers offense is really going to have to score. And, I just look at the way this team is constructed. Their offense is their biggest strength, and they're a little bit vulnerable with their pitching. So honestly, Jeff, the X factor is the two starters we're going to see in the first 2 games of this series, Jack Flaherty and Walker Buehler. They have to give them length. They have to give them a fighting chance to be able to use a bullpen game and them to feel great about it. So I would say those 2 starting pitchers, to me, in the first 2 games of this series is really going to tell us how long this series is going to go and who's going to win this series.
Dave, last one I have for you, just a little bit more of a lighthearted one. We've already, we have your prediction already. Over under 1988 NLCS references during this series. I'm setting it at 8.5. Are you taking the over or the under on that?
Well, I'll do that on my own math. So I'm taking the way over. 1988 was the most special Dodger team in my childhood. Those guys were, I know the East Coast only likes to talk about the 69 Mets, but if you go back and listen to Vince Scully's final call of the Dodgers beating the A's, he said it's the 69 Mets revisited, the impossible dream relived. And that team was the biggest underdog of underdogs. And I don't think anybody should be ashamed about referencing the 88 Dodgers because they were one of the most inspirational teams in Dodger history, the most magical world championship team in Dodger history. And I don't think it could be said enough, Matt. So I'm very happy that we have this NLCS matchup to remind everybody about my boys of summer, Mike Scioscia, Oral Hershiser, the stuntmen, Mickey Hatcher, Rick Dempsey, Franklin Stubbs. I can name the whole team right now. We could do a whole show on the 88 Dodgers.
All right, Dave, we appreciate your time.
Oh, that's it?
I mean, I have to ask
you want
before...
more 88 Dodgers knowledge? No, I'm just
hey, we're here for it. We're here for it. We're trying to be, we know you're a busy man, that you've got, a busy week ahead of you. Do we have another comp? I mean, you gave me Lakers Kings for Dodgers Padres. Do we have a similar comp for the Mets, or are we going to just let that be an NLDS thing?
No, this is East Coast versus West Coast. Dodgers Mets have their own history, and it goes back to 2015, the NLDS, Daniel Murphy. And, I hope one thing is mentioned during this series, as far as just referencing the postseason matchups between these two teams. Game 4 of the 2015 NLDS was one of the best pitched games in Kershaw's playoff history. Nobody brings that up. It was one of the best pitched games, but it doesn't fit the narrative that he never pitched well in the postseason. He forced a Game 5 in Citi Field with the Mets trying to put the Dodgers away and was fantastic. Go back and watch that game. I hope that game and the 88 Dodgers are referenced a lot.
There we go. Well, that's David Vassegh, host of Dodger Talk on AM 570, also on Sportsnet LA, among other places. You can find him on social media, @thereal_DV as well. David, as always, we appreciate your time. Enjoy today's game. Enjoy this entire series. And again, if they make it through the NLCS, David, we're going to have you back on before the World Series.
I hope so. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, go Dodgers.